Well, I've got plenty of tool reviews to do, but on days like today, well, might have to stick to an indoor video. This is one that a lot of people have been asking me to do for quite some time. Let's take a look at new and upcoming Makita 40V Max XGT power tools. And we're going to start with circular saws. Now, if you thought two 165mm saws, two 185, two rear handled, a 185 and a 260, and four 125mm circular saws wasn't enough, there is another two 125mm circular saws. That's right, Makita now make at least 6 125mm or 5-inch 40V circular saws. And now there's two new ones, the KS001G and the KS002G, which are dust-proof models. The KS001G, as you'll see from the image, has a dust port attachment area on the front to suck up straight away as you're cutting, whereas the KS002 has a fixed sort of area where you can use the saw without having it attached to a dust extractor. It'll fill up in the top with dust and then you can suck it out from the back later, so you don't have to have a vac nearby, which is super cool. And you can get an enlarged capacity tank for the top of that, which is 3 times bigger than the one it originally comes with. Now, neither of those two saws has the removable base, but that makes sense because with this extra thing on the front here, you probably wouldn't be able to get it flush cut up against the wall anyway. So those are probably only going to be available in Japan. If I can find any links for them on sale, I'll stick them down in the description. And those of you who watched my review on this particular saw would have heard me talk about this area here, where it looked like you could put some other guide or something on. Well, I have found this image here, which is a guide, as you can see, a parallel guide and an attachment to stick on the saw to run that parallel guide. Unfortunately, not on this particular saw. It fits on the KS001 and 002G, the dustless ones, and it's just a small piece that slots in here, and there's a hole in the base here that you screw it on with, and that means you can extend the back here so that you can run a guide through the front and the back to get it nice and straight and parallel. And that particular guide, if you have a look at the image, has a knob on it so you can adjust the width of it. So I'm guessing it's one you can use on the 165 saw and the 125. I haven't measured this distance to see if it's the same, but if it's adjustable it won't matter. And the rafter guide that goes on here, there's a picture of it there. I'll put the model number and that down in the description if you're interested in those. So Makita are really pumping out some cool little circular saws at the moment, and so many people saying, why aren't they doing this, that and the other for the 40V stuff? Well, I don't know. They're obsessed with angle grinders and circular saws, it would seem, at the moment. Used to be impact drivers on the 18V stuff, but they've only done one on the 40. Anyway, on to the next thing. Now, when I first saw the Makita 40V fan, I thought, that's too small, I don't like it, it looks weird. And yeah, I want a big grunty fan. It's 40V, I want it to be able to blow a heap of air. Pretty much like this 18V one here. This is much bigger than the initial 40V one. It's 4 inches wider in diameter, or 100mm. But they have now released a 40V like this that they call an industrial fan, and it is the CF002G, and it's 330mm across, same as this one, or 13 inches. They have also upgraded the cooler, heater, chili bin, esky, whatever you wish to call it, thing. They released this last year as an 18V model. You can now get an 18V and 40V model. So you can put two 40V batteries in it or two 18V batteries. That's pretty nifty. As well as that though, you can get it in olive green instead of just the Makita green. Blue, teal, whatever you call it. I have also seen images of an olive green radio and an olive green fan. Sort of more of an outdoor camping blend-in style camouflagey, yeah, sort of thing. And that is the CW001G. Now I'm going to save some of the more exciting ones until the end, but don't even think about skipping ahead. Because next up I'm just going to mention a few that may be out where you are. They've been out for a while in certain places, but they're a bit rarer and you might not have heard of them. So there is the DA001G and the DA002G angle drills. And as well as the angle drill, there's a modification to that. Both of these are available in the 36V as well, the X2 range. But you can also get a DG001G, which is an earth auger. So a 40V max post hole borer essentially. You're not going to get the same diameter holes that you would with a petrol powered post hole borer, but it's still pretty cool. They've also now released a slow battery charger, which I don't like the idea of. It's sort of one of those things that people that aren't completely in the know get sucked into when they're buying a kit or something, and they don't realize that they're buying the slow charger. And I think it's just a little bit sneaky, and I don't think Makita need to do it. Just put rapid chargers in everything. So the slow charger is the DC40RC, and it'll do a 2 amp hour in 30 minutes instead of 22 on the rapid, which doesn't make much difference, does it? You think 8 minutes, okay, who cares? Why even bother? But then the 5 amp hour takes 50 minutes on the rapid charger and an hour and 25, so that's 35 minutes longer, so that's more substantial. As well as that though, they've got a dual rapid charger, so that's the DC40RB. So RA was the first one, RB is the dual one, RC is the slow one. And the rapid charger, you can charge 2 batteries at the same speed you would charge one on the standard rapid charger, just like the 18 volt system. I've reviewed the 12 volt, I've reviewed the 18 volt, and now there is a 40 volt inflator. It is the MP001G. This is the 12 volt sitting in front of you at the moment. Basically the same sort of shape. Let's have a look at the picture, eh? As you can see in the picture, it's a beefed up version of the old school one here. And they've beefed it up and made another 18 volt one, which will be the DMP181 in most parts of the world. How much better are they? Well, I can't tell you that for sure. The numbers are really tricky on these things because they change as the pressures go up. The higher voltage ones, as the voltage goes up, they get better results at higher pressures. So, to be completely accurate on whether one's super good and one's not or whatever, we really need to test them properly in a real world environment, but I haven't got one yet. As far as I know, they're not out here yet. But I've done the 12 volt, I've done the 18 volt before. Those videos will be somewhere. Have a look. They're on my channel somewhere. And we will compare that to the 40 volt when we're able to get one, and hopefully the new 18 volt as well. I'll give you some real basic numbers. This will pump 10 litres of air at 200 kPa. The 18 volt one will pump 10 litres of air at 200 kPa. As you go up though, once you get up to like 600 kPa or something, this drops to about 4 litres, whereas the other one only drops to 7 or something like that. So as the pressures go up, it all changes. But to compare it to the new ones, 10 litres at 200 kPa. The 18 volt, also 10 litres at 200 kPa. The new 18 volt, 22 litres. So you're looking at double on low pressure. And the 40 volt, 24 litres per minute at 200 kPa. They also have a deflate button on the side now instead of having to do it with this. And instead of just having one little thing here, there is 3 for wrapping up your hose. I believe the hose is probably a bit longer as well. So there's quite a few improvements. The display, let's have a look, a lot better. There is, however, one thing I think they've overlooked, even though it's the thing you guys asked for the most. This is the trigger lock for the 12 volt and the 18 volt at present. It's commonly referred to as a cable tie or a zip tie, I do believe. That's how you hold the trigger on. It appears there is still no trigger lock on the new ones, from what I can see. It's a bit tricky because things are in Japanese and some of them have just been line drawings and stuff. Yeah, doesn't look like there's a trigger lock. Crazy, eh? When I get my hand on one of the new ones, I will of course test it and we'll compare it. Right, we're getting towards the meat and 2 veg of this video. So, outdoor power equipment. So many of you have been whinging about outdoor power equipment that they're not putting any out. Well, there's the blower, as you can see in front of me here. There's at least 3 hedge trimmers. Power head that is universal with all the other tools that they've already released in the 18 volt line. The pole trimmer, the hedge trimmer, the sweeper, scrubber, weed eater, all those sorts of things. There's at least about 6, I think, weed eaters and brush cutters. There is not a chainsaw yet. I know a lot of people are waiting for that. Everybody's been asking for an 80 volt chainsaw, and I'd love to do a review on an 80 volt chainsaw, so hopefully one day that comes out. But they have released this mower. Now while it isn't exactly run on a 40 volt battery, it is a 36 volt mower that you run on the PDC 1200 battery pack, which is a 33.5 amp hour battery. So you take that battery pack and you clip it on the top of the mower and plug it in, and you can power the mower and do up to 35 tennis courts supposedly. Yeah. Now that mower is the MLM001C, and the PDC 1200 battery backpack can run the 36 volt tools, the 18x2s, and also the 40 volt max tools, and also tools that don't have either battery connection but instead just have a cord plug type connection. So there's 3 different versions of adapters you can put to run the 3 different systems of tools all off this one battery pack, which, as I say, 33.5 amp hours. Wow. This 5 amp hour 40 volt max battery is the largest one Makita makes so far, but this new backpack is 33.5, so that's over 6 of these, over 6.5 of these. Now when it comes to miter saws, first there was the LS001G, the 165mm miter saw, which was not released in most of the world, hasn't been released here. Then, not too long ago, I did a review on the LS002G, which is a 216mm saw. And I imagine many of you are guessing the LS003G is a 10-inch saw or 260mm. But no, it's the 12-inch. So, they released the 12-inch before the 10-inch. Interesting. So the LS003G is a 12-inch 305mm saw. It has a cut capacity of 107mm by 363mm, or 4¼ inches by 14¼ inches. The design looks unfortunately similar to the 18x2 saws, which, while being good saws, are very heavy for portable saws. So the 12-inch saw is over 30 kgs. That's just super heavy. So they look like nice saws, the 12-inch and the LS004G 10-inch, but they are very big and heavy still. So that's going to disappoint a lot of guys. I think when the LS002G came out, we all thought, woohoo, they've managed to make them compact and light. That's only like 15 kgs, I think that saw. It's like half the weight. And I was hoping for a 10 and 12-inch that were going to be similar in design so that they could keep that weight down. A 12-inch saw that could be under 20 kgs would be much nicer than one that's 30. But it seems they have stuck more with that traditional large design. I'm sure they're still great saws, but yeah, that's a little bit disappointing. And finally, this might be the Makita 40 volt tool that I'm being asked about the most at the moment. And that would be the SP001G 40 volt max XGT Plunge Saw. Yes, they have done it. It's out in New Zealand. I haven't got one yet. I'll try and get my hands on one soon. I don't know where else in the world they're out yet. Not too many places, I wouldn't have thought. It is an IP56 rated saw, as are all the circular saws Makita have released so far, I do believe. I think they're all IP56. It's very similar in design to the 36 volt 18x2. It is a bit lighter, it's 600 grams lighter, which is effectively one of these. And when you take into account that you need 2 of those to run the 18x2 and you only need 1 of those to run the 40 volt, the new 40 volt is effectively that much lighter, which is about 1.2 kgs overall. Quite a significant savings. It has a depth of cut of 56mm, or on a 45 degree it'll cut down to 40mm. Seems a pretty similar saw until you look at the RPMs. So the RPM on the 18 volt by 2 is 6,300 max RPM, and on the new 40 volt only 4,900, which is closer to the slow speed on this saw than the high speed. So it's interesting that they've lowered the speed. I'm guessing the motor's got a bit more torque than the one in the 18x2, and therefore will deliver a more constant sustained speed and therefore give you a better cut. Faster isn't always better. Although when it came to the rear-handled 185mm saws, woohoo, that 18 volt by 2 one didn't stand a chance up against the speed of the 40 volt. This 165mm 40 volt model has 2 speeds on it, and the higher speed is 5,500 and the lower speed is 4,100. So the speed of the new plunge saw is sort of in between the top and the low speed of this particular saw, which is definitely a speed capable of cutting perfectly fine. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing if you saw my video recently on this. Isn't it cool? So this is a battery check. If you haven't seen it, I will put it up in just a moment on the screen. It checks 18 volt batteries. Tells you how many charges they've done, amongst many other things. And it also checks 40 volt batteries, which is even cooler. It'll tell you how hot they are inside and everything. If you want to check out the video for that, I'm going to put it right here. Till next time, see you later guys. Please consider subscribing and hit that like button if you liked it. If you didn't like it, hit the dislike button. Whatever. Do what you want to do. All my 40 volt reviews are down in the description. There'll be links down in the description to any of the other tools I can find, any other interesting little Makita things I can find links for. Yeah, down there. Okay, thanks guys. Wow, listen to that weather. I think it's hailing out there. Holy moly. Might be stuck down here for a while. Stuck with all these Makita tools. Oh, it's a hard life.